Last week I flew up to Edinburgh for a couple of days courtesy of Smokehead Whiskey. You see, they've commissioned an extremely talented Ducati mechanic at North Motorcycle to build a custom bike for them which they'll eventually display and ride at both motorcycle and whiskey events. So I went up to have a look at how the build was coming along, but while I was there, the builder, Tyler Lunsford, agreed to give me a tour of his amazing workshop. He's spent considerable time, effort and money to transform a dingy old railway arch into an incredible space to work on his bikes. So here he is, showing us around and telling us about some of the bikes currently in the shop. Alright man, so tell us maybe how you ended up in Leith in Scotland.
I'm from Oregon. I worked for a Ducati dealership there and eventually moved to New York because I met a girl and spent about 10 years in New York. And ended up coming to Scotland for family. So I've been here roughly almost 3 years, and it took about, 6 months or so to find this building in a completely derelict state. It was a lot of work to make it a motorcycle shop, but it turned out to be a pretty cool space.
So what were the kind of main things you had to do to kind of...
Well, it needed a roof, it needed new electrics and plumbing, and it needed, I stripped the walls, it used to be all painted. I just needed to let the brick breathe and, start over. Basically, I gut it out and just build from there.
So when you're in New York, you were working...
I worked for Ducati in New York for a short amount of time before starting my own shop in Brooklyn. And it was primarily a Ducati service department. I worked on a few other brands like MV Agusta, Laverda, Moto Guzzi, Triumph, KTM. But I would say most of it's Ducati. And I would do, 1 or 2 custom bikes a year, but really the backbone of the business was service on Italian bikes.
All right. So you've got quite a few bikes in here that you're servicing at the moment for customers. I don't know if you want to tell us about some of these.
Well, this is an old shovel head. This is like sort of my grocery getter. It's how I get to work in the morning. And this bike originally came from LA. It's just one of the few I couldn't sell when I decided to move over. So I don't know, a lot of Ducatis that come in, it's like a different story with everyone. This one's been sitting a few years. It needed the carbs clean, timing belts, all the fluids, and just sort of like, help, why doesn't my bike start type of thing. But these are like a breath of fresh air. The old carbureted bikes are the type I really enjoy working on. Yeah. This is a 999, a similar story, sitting for a long time, needed the timing belts, the fluids, everything. It's cool. Initially I thought it was an S because it has the Owens, but apparently it's just a standard. It's the early model with the cast swing arms, so probably 2004, 2003.
Custom added that Owens themselves, or?
He bought it like that, but maybe somebody did that to it before he got it. And it's also got that monotail, which I think they were trying to make it look like the Desmo Sedici, but that's actually a Ducati performance part for 999s. So you don't see those too often. Got a couple other bikes. I don't know, a bike for a buddy that's been sitting for a million years, carburetor rebuild. This is an old Multistrada.
Really?
Yeah, it's a 2005 Multistrada, I believe. And it's just a customer of mine and I have been talking about building a sort of like adventure bike, something with tall suspension and, spoked wheels with knobby tires, kind of Baja style lights. And so it's just sort of stripped down and in a stage where we're making drawings and deciding how to move forward. It's a long-term thing.
What about all the tanks on the wall? Is that a bit of a tank graveyard?
Yeah, sometimes you end up with spare parts from crashed bikes or, insurance jobs, or a lot of people in New York didn't have a place to keep all their spare parts or takeoff parts. So in New York, I ended up with a lot of spares, like bins full of random stuff. And I don't know, I think they're pretty.
Some nice bikes over here if you want to tell us about these four.
Yeah. This is a 2007 S4 RS. So it's the most powerful monster they made of the old body style. It's got a 999S motor.
Okay.
And in 2007, I think that was the only year they did the white with the red. That's cool. This guy had some like exhaust leaks. He needed valves. He needed timing belts, fluids, check engine light, all kinds of stuff going on. But
awesome.
The Hypermotard, that's one that I brought over. I actually acquired that bike with only 1,000 miles on it. A guy had like dropped it and it scratched the fork or something, whatever. It was really minor damage, and the insurance company decided to, I call it a total, but over here it's called a Cat D or Cat.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was a write-off, but it was not expensive to fix. And I feel like it's the best Hypermotard they made. I can't sell it. The Evo SP, so the SP has the Owens, the Marzocchi, the forged wheels, the monoblock brakes, and the Evo motor is like, it's the lightest air-cooled motor they made that's the most powerful. So, the standard 1100 was like less power and heavier.
And you said this has still got your Brooklyn license plate on it.
Still got the Brooklyn plate on there. To register it here, you need something called a certificate of conformity, and it's actually not easy to get. So it's still registered in New York. This is a panhead I built in 2013. I just collected parts for a couple years, and one January decided to throw it together. The motor, transmission, a lot of the parts are actually in really nice new form. It just, I never painted it. I let it just sort of patina.
It looks amazing.
It's got a look, but I really like it. The headlight's from a 36 Buick.
Oh, really?
When it's a fog light from a 36 Buick. I was into old cars and stuff growing up, and so a lot of these spare parts end up being little bits you can use on a creative build,
And then the pièce de résistance here.
Yeah, it's an old police bike from 1980, Moto Guzzi V50, and it's a customer here in Edinburgh. He was having some oil in the airbox problems. I was just trying to sort that out.
I can see the sirens still here as well.
Yeah, and
do they work?
Apparently my customer's been pulled over a couple times. Like, you can't really
imitate a police.
Yeah, and she has to show them like, look, the wires are cut. So I'm not gonna, I can't turn them on. There's no blue lights or anything.
I also don't genuinely think if anyone got pulled over by somebody on that bike, they would take them seriously.
I mean, yeah, maybe they think it's the Gallic word for police, or maybe the Polish word or something.
It's interesting though, when we walked in here, like, I'm looking at, anyone who's into bikes is probably looking at the Super Sport or the 999 over there, but the non-bikers in the party immediately are drawn to the police bike.
Yeah, it's cool. That's cool. I think she got it off eBay, and the motor was actually seized. Took a bit of work, but it's her daily driver.
Right. It's beautiful. And then, what about this airhead over here? Do you mind?
Yeah. I got that bike quite some time ago, before the move over. It's sort of like it's a mild custom. It's sort of like a custom restoration, I might call it. So it's a 77 R100/7. And I used a Sebring Rock top end. It was 1,000cc before, but I replaced the cylinders and pistons. The heads have got, new valve seats for like non-leaded gasoline. And I've also dual plugged the heads. I'm running electronic ignition, big 420 watt charging system. They'd be cool. The Delortos are 40 millimeter. And I've got curved Contis on here. It's still, I'm still finishing it, but you can see the concept. I converted it to a monoshock. The shock is from a Hypermotard, and these are like Ducati 1098 rear sets. The tail section is from Ducati Super Sport from the 70s, and then the rest is like BMW. This is a /7 tank, and then the headlight is BMW, but not what would have come on this bike. So this is the early like /5 headlight where the gauges are flush in the headlight. So this is a factory part, but wouldn't have come on this bike. I just thought it had a really clean look. The triple clamp is from BMW San Jose. They produce these little billet aluminum.
So even
parts.
when you do make a BMW custom, there's still some Ducati
Yeah.
elements in there.
Yeah, like I think the curved Contis go really well on these, and people rarely put like a nice meaty exhaust on a BMW, and Contis definitely have like a distinct sound. It's very, very 70s, and big twins sound like trucks when you let them breathe. So it's got a little ways to go, but it's
And
a
then,
cool project.
The Diavolo up on the work stand there.
Yeah, that early Diavos, there was like a few that had porous head castings. Kind of a bummer, but this customer's had to replace both heads. The vertical was done about a year ago, and then the horizontal cylinder is just failing now. So I've just swapped all the valves over to the new head, and I'm just adjusting the shims now, and gonna install the head probably tomorrow or something. So
Awesome. And then the bike that we're here to see, I guess, the work in progress for.
So here is the Smokehead whiskey bike. It's sort of in the middle of things at the moment. I've used multi-strata suspension. I needed I'm running dual 19-inch rims. I wanted sort of like a vintage like flat track look, and I needed the long forks with to get the clearance so the tire doesn't hit the triple clamps. This is an old Y-Pack fog light from the 70s. The frame is handmade. I've sort of positioned the rider with the motor and the bike to give it kind of a bobber feel, but like stretched out, and it'll be like comfortable seating position, mid controls with the feet, and it's a 1000cc S2R 1000 motor. So it'll have, roughly 95 horsepower, lots of torque, and it'll feel like a Ducati, but give you that sort of feeling like you're on a bobber, which I really enjoy.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll move on to a longer video, but thanks for showing us around.
Sure, yeah.
After this tour, we spent a bit more time talking about the Smokehead bike build, so I'll upload an extended video about it later this week. From there, Smokehead treated us to a tasting and then an awesome party back at the Black Cat Whiskey Bar. A big thank you to them for inviting me up to Edinburgh for a great couple of days. There's links to their YouTube and website in the description below. And also a big thanks to Tyler for showing me around. He even let me take a couple of the bikes up and down the street, which was super kind of him. Links to his Instagram and website in the description as well. Let me know which bike you like best in the comments below. Mine was probably the Super Sport with the half fairing, but to be honest, any of them would be fine.